The icy winds of the North Pole howled mercilessly.
I had determined that the memory of my evils should die with me.
As a ship struggles to push through thick, unyielding ice.
Some is not, but it is all true.
The crew is exhausted, their muscles screaming with every attempt to break free. But the captain, relentless and obsessed, insists they must reach their destination no matter the cost. Hours stretch into a frozen nightmare, until a distant flicker of light catches their eyes. Hope turns to horror as they approach. Smoke curls into the night sky, and a smoldering tent hints at violence. Among the devastation, a lone man lies injured, his body battered. One leg revealed to be prosthetic. Before they can catch their breath, a growl rumbles through the frozen expanse. The men rush back to the ship with the wounded stranger, but terror awaits them on deck. A colossal, monster-like figure approaches, impervious to gunfire. Bullets, rifles, even a machine gun seem meaningless against its unnatural strength. Crew after crew falls, unable to withstand its power. In a final act, the monster lifts the ship itself, forcing the men to confront an unimaginable reality. Only when a shot cracks the ice beneath him does he finally vanish beneath the freezing waters, but the threat remains as the chaos settles. The captain tends to the wounded man, who introduces himself as Victor Frankenstein. His warning is chilling. This creature, born of his own hands, will return. The narrative promise is clear. What unfolds is not merely a tale of monsters, but a tragic story of creation, ambition, and consequences beyond imagination. And with that, Victor begins to tell his story from his privileged yet troubled childhood to the obsessions and experiments that would change the world forever and set the stage for a creature both terrifying and profoundly human. Victor Frankenstein was born into wealth and privilege, yet his early life was far from peaceful. His father, a prominent surgeon, was a man consumed by ambition and legacy, distant and emotionally absent. Lessons were harsh, often paired with punishment, and the warmth of parental care was scarce. In this cold household, Victor found solace only in the love of his mother, whose gentle presence offered a fleeting refuge from fear and discipline, but that fragile security was shattered when tragedy struck. One day, while playing with his mother, Victor witnessed something that would haunt him forever. She began bleeding unexpectedly during childbirth. Despite the best efforts of doctors and caregivers, she could not be saved. The new child, a healthy boy, survived and quickly became the object of their father's attention, leaving Victor to grapple with grief, resentment, and a profound sense of injustice. The pain of loss became the seed of obsession. One morning, fueled by anger and sorrow, Victor confronted his father. "You failed to save her," he accused. But his father, unwavering in his fatalistic belief, replied, "No one can conquer death. It is beyond human reach." Those words, meant to comfort or perhaps rationalize, ignited something in Victor instead. He swore that one day he would surpass his father, not just in medicine or knowledge, but in the very mastery of life and death itself. From that moment, Victor's mind became consumed with an audacious vision, the creation of life itself. The idea was intoxicating, almost divine, a promise of power, understanding, and immortality. Every lesson, every failure, every whisper of death around him fed his ambition. The boy who once sought comfort in his mother's embrace now sought to defy the natural order. Victor's childhood, marked by neglect, loss, and unrelenting grief, had forged the foundation for a brilliance laced with danger. What began as curiosity would grow into obsession. An obsession would lead him down a path from which there was no return, a path that would give rise to a creature whose existence would challenge the limits of humanity itself. Years passed, and Victor Frankenstein's obsession with the limits of life and death only deepened. He moved to London, dedicating decades to expanding the boundaries of science, isolating himself from family, friends, and any semblance of normal life. Brilliant but increasingly arrogant, Victor became consumed by a vision. Few could comprehend, a vision to create life itself. At the university, he unveiled his work for the first time, In a lecture hall filled with skeptical minds, he presented a humanoid figure stitched together from multiple corpses, yet animated by the spark of a battery-powered device. The creation moved, obeyed simple commands, and even performed small tasks, like catching an apple. Gasps and murmurs filled the room, but the professors were horrified. "This is unholy," they cried. "Only God can give life. Only God can take it." Victor's rage boiled over. Their condemnation, their fear of what he had achieved, only strengthened his resolve. Moral limits, he decided, were chains meant to be broken. Amid the controversy, a mysterious visitor arrived, Harland, a former army surgeon with a keen interest in Victor's work. Wealthy and persuasive, he carried a hidden agenda. His curiosity and admiration were palpable. But he also bore news Victor's brother William was coming to London with his fiancée, Elizabeth Harland's niece. "What I show you," Harland promised, "will change everything." He hinted at vast resources and support, but at a price Victor did not yet know. This encounter marked a turning point. Victor's ambitions were no longer confined to theory or the secrecy of his lab. The stakes had risen. Money, influence, and connections now intertwined with his pursuit. And at the heart of it, the promise of creation and the thrill of surpassing natural limits pulsed stronger than ever. The first steps toward something extraordinary and dangerous had begun, setting in motion a chain of events that would forever blur the line between life and monstrosity. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Victor Frankenstein stood before his partially assembled creation, electricity crackling through the room as storm clouds raged above. With trembling hands, he activated the machine. The body twitched, muscles contracted, and for a heartbeat, triumph surged through Victor. But it was short-lived. Horror replaced elation as he stared at the lifeless eyes slowly opening, a being born from death, yet disturbingly alien. Fear gripped him. He had succeeded, but at a cost he could barely comprehend. Amid this chaos, Harland revealed his secret. His illness, syphilis, was terminal, his body failing. Yet he had one final, twisted request: to transfer his consciousness into the creature, to live on through Victor's work. Victor recoiled. There were lines even he would not cross. Morality, however fragile, still held some dominion over ambition. He refused, igniting the anger and desperation of a man faced with his mortality. The confrontation escalated violently. Harland, desperate and unhinged, attacked Victor, and in the struggle, he fell into the pit. Victor, shaken but resolute, realized the equipment was damaged, yet the storm outside offered a raw, untamed source of energy. Against better judgment, he proceeded, turning the generators to full capacity. Lightning struck. The machines groaned under the overload, and the air crackled with potential life. For a tense moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, with a shudder and a gasp that seemed almost human, the creature drew breath. Its eyes opened, reflecting both innocence and a nascent awareness of the world. Victor, overwhelmed, collapsed to the floor, his body and mind drained by the intensity of creation. He had crossed the ultimate threshold. Life, once divine and untouchable, now bent to human hands. In that moment, triumph, horror, and guilt collided. Victor had created life, but in doing so, had set in motion a chain of events beyond control. The storm raged on, a fitting witness to the birth of the unnatural. Outside, the world remained unaware. But inside that laboratory, history had been irrevocably altered. When Victor awoke, the laboratory was silent. At first, there was only stillness, but then movement. The creature stirred, unsteady yet deliberate, its gaze fixed on Victor. It mimicked his gestures, copying the way he reached for objects, the way he tilted his head in thought. With every small act, Victor realized the being was not merely alive, it was learning. Light fascinated it. Warmth brought a tentative comfort. Victor showed it simple things: the flicker of a candle, the feeling of a heartbeat, the sound of a name. Slowly, the creature began to echo back, repeating Victor with curious inflection, eyes wide with wonder at the world around it. Despite these early sparks of understanding, Victor's fear dominated. He could not yet trust the creation. He chained it in a dungeon, restricting its movements, isolating it from human contact. Though it obeyed, its curiosity remained. The creature touched the walls, studied shadows, and silently watched Victor. Every gesture revealed a mind struggling to comprehend existence. But chained and alone, it could not yet grasp morality, empathy, or friendship. Days later, William and Elizabeth arrived, their presence filling the castle with life. Elizabeth, wandering the halls, discovered the creature. To her surprise, there was no immediate terror, only a mutual curiosity. She studied its movements, noting the hesitant way it explored the world, the silent, searching gaze. For the first time, the creature experienced something unfamiliar: human kindness. A connection that was neither violent nor judgmental. The creature reached out with cautious hands, offering a leaf as if to share a simple gift. Elizabeth accepted it, speaking gently, encouraging its attempts to communicate. Its only word remained Victor, yet it repeated it with a rhythm and tone that hinted at comprehension. Victor watched from the shadows, torn between pride and dread. The being was learning, growing, becoming aware, and while it had yet to understand love or loyalty, this first interaction with Elizabeth marked the beginning of its awakening, not just as a creation, but as a being capable of thought, emotion, and eventually, the capacity for both innocence and anguish. In the dungeon, the creature's world was small but expanding. Every lesson, every gesture of care, planted seeds of understanding. Yet even in these early, tender moments, the shadow of fear and isolation loomed, a reminder that the path from innocence to experience would be neither simple nor safe. In the quiet hours of the castle, a fragile bond had formed. The creature, once a bundle of fear and confusion, began to recognize kindness. Elizabeth's gentle presence, her patient guidance, brought a spark of warmth and understanding. Slowly, the monster learned her name, repeating it with curiosity and care, mimicking the way she spoke. Tender gestures offered leaves. Small touches became their silent language. For the first time, the creature felt a connection beyond Victor, a flicker of belonging. But Victor's obsession with control and perfection overshadowed these small triumphs. Fearful of the creature's growing independence, he descended into cruelty. Beatings followed, meant to test pain and obedience. The creature, bewildered and terrified, tried to obey, but the lessons were harsh and the punishments relentless. Victor sought to force comprehension through violence, ignoring the fragile intelligence and empathy the monster was beginning to display. In desperation and fear, the creature fought back. Its strength, unnatural and overwhelming, was unleashed for the first time in direct defiance. Chains broke, objects shattered, and Victor's authority faltered. Yet this violent outburst was not born of malice alone. It was self-preservation, a reaction to the torment he had endured. The breaking point came with fire. Victor, consumed by frustration and rage at the creature's perceived disobedience, tempted to destroy his creation, pouring gas throughout the castle to burn it alive. But in that inferno, the creature learned the most devastating truth. It had a name beyond Victor's Elizabeth. Hearing her name spoken by the being he sought to control, Victor realized too late the depth of his obsession and the consequences of his hubris. The castle erupted in flames, roaring around them as walls crumbled and towers collapsed. In the chaos, Victor was thrown violently by a gust of fire, losing a leg in the process. The creature, now fully aware of its power and its creator's cruelty, escaped the burning ruins. No longer a helpless learner, it vanished into the wilderness, carrying with it a mixture of pain, anger, the first seeds of vengeance. The night closed over the castle, smoke curling into the sky. Victor was left wounded and broken, the ruin of his work a stark reflection of his moral failure. The creature, now free, began its journey into the wider world that would teach it lessons of survival, cruelty, and the harsh realities of humanity. The creature emerged into the wider world, unshielded and unprepared. Survival was brutal. Hunters, sensing a threat in the unfamiliar figure, fired without hesitation. Bullets tore through the snow around him, forcing him to flee and hide among the shadows of the forest. Each encounter with humans reinforced a grim truth. The world saw him as a monster, and survival demanded cunning, stealth, and endurance. In his wandering, he stumbled upon a small cottage, humble and warm, where a blind old man lived with his daughter and grandchildren. From afar, the creature watched, curious and cautious. Slowly, he began to understand human behavior, observing acts of kindness, patience, and love. By night, he secretly aided the family returning dropped belongings, helping with chores, ensuring safety. Through these quiet gestures, he learned the value of compassion, empathy, and moral choice. For the first time, he tasted connection without fear or violence. As days passed, the creature devoured books and stories left by the family, learning language and expanding his mind. The blind old man, unaware of his mysterious helper, spoke of forgiveness, compassion, and the delicate balance of life. The lessons sank deep. Anger and cruelty were human weaknesses, while understanding and patience could guide even the lost. Yet the creature's discovery of his own origins shattered this fragile peace. He found documents revealing he was pieced together from corpses, a creation of Victor Frankenstein. The knowledge weighed heavily. He was a being of death, a product of obsession. Conflicted, he returned to the cottage, seeking solace. The old man offered quiet reassurance. Life, no matter its beginnings, could be lived with dignity and moral purpose. Forgiveness and empathy, he explained, were true wisdom. Soon after, the old man passed away, leaving the creature with grief tempered by newfound understanding. But peace was fleeting. Hunters returned, their eyes filled with fear and aggression. A confrontation erupted. The creature fought with instinctive strength, fending them off, yet each victory left him scarred, weary, and disillusioned. Though alive, the repeated rejections carved a deep sorrow into his being. He realized that the world, while capable of kindness, would not accept him. Alone, he wandered the wilderness, carrying the weight of his identity, his losses, and the bitter lessons of human cruelty, a monster yet learning what it truly meant to be alive. The night was meant for celebration, yet darkness loomed. The monster, driven by loneliness and rage, demanded that Victor create a companion to spare him eternal isolation. Victor's heart recoiled at the thought. He refused, drawing a line he could not cross. The creature's fury was swift and merciless. In a tragic instant, Elizabeth, innocent and unaware, became the casualty of their conflict. Victor arrived moments too late, her life extinguished. A bullet meant for him had struck her instead. The devastation compounded. William, already suffering from the chain of tragedies, succumbed to despair and confusion. He blamed Victor, unable to reconcile the calamities surrounding his family. Grief and anger swelled, creating a chasm between creator and creation, guilt and vengeance. Victor, racked with remorse, knew that the monster's wrath could not be ignored. The Arctic ice awaited as Victor, driven by a mix of vengeance and duty, pursued his creation across the frozen expanse. Each step brought them closer to the inevitable confrontation. Victor prepared explosives and ammunition, determined to end the nightmare once and for all. Dynamite, gunfire, and calculated traps filled the icy wilderness with tension, yet the creature's unnatural resilience prevailed. Time and again, the monster survived, pervious to Victor's attempts to destroy him in the bitter cold. Man and creation faced one another across a landscape of frozen desolation. Victor's exhaustion clashed with the monster's relentless strength. The frozen winds carried the echoes of past losses. Elizabeth, William, the castle, and the endless pursuit of life denied and life destroyed. Victor's humanity wavered. Torn between his desire for vengeance and the horrifying realization of what he had unleashed, the confrontation became a cycle of destruction and survival. Victor's dynamite detonated, shattering the ice and the landscape. Yet the monster, wounded but alive, endured. The chase pressed on, neither side yielding, symbolizing a war beyond reason, a collision of ambition, guilt, and the consequences of playing God. Every blast, every struggle, every fall underscored the tragedy. Neither could claim true victory. Survival itself became a torment, and the monster's presence, a haunting reminder of Victor's hubris. In the frozen wasteland, the final confrontation was far from final. The monster walked on, scarred, vengeful, and yet strangely enlightened. Victor, battered and broken, continued the pursuit, carrying the weight of loss and the knowledge that some creations could never be undone. Victor is rescued by the ship's crew. Weak and wounded, yet finds the strength to speak. "My son, live," he whispers, asking forgiveness and urging the monster to survive beyond his failures. Victor dies, leaving the creature with both grief and understanding. The monster kneels, places a farewell kiss on Victor's forehead, and pushes the ship free from the ice. The captain steers it home. Alone, the monster walks into the horizon, being born of death, now choosing life. His steps are quiet but determined, carrying the weight of loss, the gift of creation, and the possibility of hope.